Hi, this week we're going to learn about fear and responsibility. It's the first part in our story. Thump, thump. What's that? The soldier, Shema, asked. He was so scared his armor was shaking and clattering like a tin roof in a hailstorm. Clank, 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 ping, ping, ping. His brothers Eliab and Abinadab almost couldn't hear the thumping because of Shema's shaking, but they didn't need to hear it. They could feel it as it shook the ground around them. Thump, thump, thump. You don't think the Philistines have managed to get their tree launcher working, do you? Asked Abinadab, looking over the creek towards the Philistine camp on the other hilltop. Don't be ridiculous, Eliab scoffed. It's not possible to build a catapult that throws trees. Thump, thump, thump. Are you sure? Abinadab asked again. I'm sure. Eliab glared at him. Is it getting closer? Shammah asked. His question could barely be heard above the clanking of his armor. I think so. Even Eliab didn't sound so brave anymore. The thumping was getting closer. What is it? Asked Abinadab. How would I know that? Eliab glared at his brother. Thump, thump, thump. All eyes were peeled to the hilltop, waiting to catch the first glimpse of what was coming their way. Something shiny pierced the skyline above the hilltop. It's the sun! Shammah yelled, relieved. Don't be ridiculous, Eliab pointed up. The sun is above our heads. And so it was. Then what's that? Abinadab pointed a shaky finger at the bright circle creeping over the horizon. It certainly looked bright enough to be the sun. Eliab shrugged. Thump, thump, thump. Then under the shiny circle appeared hair, eyes, and a nose. It's a statue! Abinadab almost laughed with relief. Statues don't blink, Eliab said grimly. The rattling of Shammah's armor went silent, but only after he fainted dead away. Still, the thumping continued, undaunted by the smell of fear in the air. Unfortunately, many of the other soldiers around Abinadab and Eliab took to shaking in their boots too. The sound was almost deafening. The giant man crested the hill and began to walk towards the Israelite army on the other side of the Great Kidron. The object Shammah had thought was the sun was a giant brass helmet. The dude was also wearing a heavy coat of mail, brass shoulder pads, and brass shin guards. The spear in his hand was as big as a bean. The guy didn't even carry his own shield. Someone ran in front of him with it. Well, what do you think he wants? Abinadab asked Eliab. How should I know that? Eliab tried to sound confident and annoyed, but his voice shook a little. Suddenly a voice like thunder yelled, Armies of Israel, hear me! Why should we all go to battle? I challenge one of you to one-on-one combat. If your man beats me, all the Philistines will serve you. If I beat him, then you must all serve us. I defy you. Send out a man to fight me. No way! Abinadab nearly joined his brother Shammah on the ground in a dead faint. No one could defeat that guy. He's huge. Don't worry, Eliab said, but his voice trembled just a little. Saul is head and shoulders above all of us. Plus, he's the king. He'll fight this giant. It'll be fine. But it wasn't fine. Saul turned coward. He wouldn't go fight Goliath of Gath. Do you know who did? Well, if you do, shh, keep it to yourself. For 40 days, Goliath came out every morning and every evening to challenge Israel to fight him. But no one would go. Shammah even got better about not fainting every time he saw Goliath. His armor still rattled so loud his brothers thought they could hear it in their sleep. And maybe they did. Poor Shammah started having nightmares about Goliath. Everyone was having nightmares about Goliath. What if Saul picked one of them to fight the giant? Now, all the way back in Bethlehem, Eliab, Abinadab, and Shammah's father was getting worried. He hadn't heard from them in over a month. Jesse actually had 8 sons. Can you imagine that? 8. So Jesse decided to send his youngest son to go check on his 3 oldest boys. Only David was watching the sheep, and somebody had to watch the sheep while David was gone. That someone Jesse decided would be his 4th son, Nathaniel. Bah, 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 reached Nathaniel's ears as he neared the field. This is the worst, Nathaniel grumbled. I hate stinking sheep. They're so stupid and boring and dumb. All they do is eat and sleep and say, bah, I'm going to die of boredom. Nathaniel, greetings, David called to his brother. What brings you out here? Papa wants you to go check on Eliab, Abinadab, and Shammah. I don't know why I can't go. He's probably worried you're going to join the army and not come back, David said. I'm almost old enough, Nathaniel huffed. Papa should just let me go. Papa already has 3 sons to worry about in the army, David said. He doesn't need to worry about you too. He's sending you there, Nathaniel flared. Yeah, but I'm just a kid. The Philistines will probably leave me alone, David thought. Nathaniel still didn't think it was fair. He wanted to join the army, and he had to look after boring sheep. Bah! That didn't sound right. The sheep sounded scared. Suddenly the sheep began to scatter in all directions. What's going on? Nathaniel cried. It's a lion! David yelled over his shoulder as he charged at the beast. What are you doing? Nathaniel yelled. Are you crazy? Get back here. It's a lion. It'll kill you. It's got a lamb. David was so far away Nathaniel almost couldn't hear him. So what? Nathaniel yelled. We've got lots of lambs. Just let the lion have it and save yourself. Should David have let the lion kill the little lamb? Some people would agree with Nathaniel. They'd rather save themselves and let the sheep die. But David's dad had told him to look after the sheep. Hey, you! David swung his staff at the lion. Boink! He hit him right on the head. If lions could talk, I'm sure he would have said, ow, because he dropped the little lamb right away. David scooped the little lamb up into his arms, but the fun wasn't over yet. The lion got back up and took a swipe at David. The lion still wanted lunch, and if he couldn't have a little lamb, he was going to get the little kid who hit him on the head and given him a headache. Hide, you fool! Nathaniel screamed from where he hid behind a rock a long, long ways away. But David didn't hide. He grabbed that lion by his mane and hit him again. Now, the poor lion really had a headache, but he had bigger problems than that, because the next thing David did was kill the lion. Wow, Nathaniel said, tentatively creeping closer, just in case the lion was only playing dead. Is it dead? Yes. David cuddled the little lamb close. You're crazy, Nathaniel gaped. I can't believe you killed that lion. How did you do that? Why did you do that? God cares about all the animals in the world, even the little ones. He was with me and he helped me. David began to bandage the little lamb's sores. David knew the little lamb would need to be carried for several weeks while it healed, but he also knew Nathaniel was not going to carry the little lamb around. Nathaniel wouldn't love it until it got better. Nathaniel wouldn't care for the sheep. He'd leave them all to die. A shepherd needed to be brave and loyal, and Nathaniel didn't care about the sheep. But David knew just the person to ask, the Ishmaelite Jether. Jether wanted to marry David's sister Abigail, and Jether would kill any lions or bears that came along. Jether would carry the little lamb around on his shoulders, just like David would have. So David sent Nathaniel back home and asked for Jether. You see, it was important for David to obey his father. He needed to take corn and cheese and bread to his brothers in the army. but he also needed to make sure the sheep were safe. Sometimes we get asked to do something and we think we can't do two things at once. David was smart and figured out how to obey his father and look after the sheep too. Here are our Bible verses for this week. Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. Joshua 1 verse 9. Now Shema didn't remember that verse. He was scared. Remember how he was shaking in his boots and fainted? Even Eliab and Abinadab were scared too, but not David. David was strong and of a good courage. He knew God was with him, and so he killed the lion. David also remembered our second Bible verse, that it's important to obey your parents. Ephesians 6 verses 1 through 3. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. Until next week, when we find out what happened when David went to see his brothers in the army. Bye.